morning. It is early in the morning. The sun is just starting to come up, and I'm seeing daylight peeking in behind the shades of my window. If you listen carefully, in the background, you might hear the bubbling of the coffee maker, the coffee percolator, making a pitcher of coffee, some of which I have thoughtfully prepared for myself, and for you, if you'd like a mug, excuse me. Well, the novelty has not yet worn off. I very much like these little self-monitoring headphones, because they kind of give me the sound of my voice in real time, which, I don't know, seems to let me react to it a lot more quickly than, like you're talking and then you think you know how you sound, but then you have monitors and you know how you actually sound, and it's just, it's a slight difference, which I'm appreciating this morning. My poor computer. It has fans. The fans are loud, which is why I've buried my computer under a couple of big fuzzy blankets to deaden the noise. I don't think I'm going to overheat my computer and do damage to it, but, well, I guess there's only one way to find out. Of course, the other option would be to learn how to process the sound in my videos before I upload them, but education? I mean, learning? Come on, man. What do you think I'm here for? I'm here for the clicks, obviously. Well, I suppose I could tell you a short anecdote of what the heck I'm doing awake at this hour of the day. So, I lost a job recently, as in precisely 7.35 days ago, give or take a tenth of a decimal. And I have spent the previous week hitting the pavement, hitting the bricks, looking for alternative employment. And I've had decent luck so far. I've had 3 interviews. One of them at an extremely scary warehouse, a little too close to Detroit, if you know what I mean. Very, very old school. Just the way the building looked. Like, you walk in the front door, and there's a small enclosed cubicle with a couple of windows where you can see through to the secretaries, about drive-through size at McDonald's. And so I open up that little window, and I'm like, "Hi, my name," and I give them a resume through that little window, and they look at it, and they're like, "Oh, boy, hang on just a minute." So then the secretary disappears off into the darkness of this massive old building, and it gives me a few minutes to sit and look at it, like built out of cinder block, painted over with thick paint. If I had to guess, it might have been built in the 50s, maybe the 60s. The cinder blocks went from the floor up till about 7 foot off the ground, where they went to wood paneling up all the way to the rest of the ceiling. Just the way it looks to me, an extremely vintage, like the high school I used to go to was decorated like that. So the boss came up out of the back, shook my hand, took me to a little back room. We had a quick sit down, and then he was like, "Sure, I know you're here for the customer sales representative position, but I just had a bunch of guys walk off the job this morning. How'd you like to come back and check out the assembly line?" I don't know. I'm not trying to say that I'm picky or whatever. I mean, I'll do whatever so long as it puts food in front of my face, Little Caesars in my belly. But getting offered a different job than the one you'd applied for is, I think, a red flag. And worse, when the guy that's interviewing you says, "Yeah, I just had a bunch of guys walk off the job today because they didn't like the direction this company was headed. That is not something that should fill you with confidence. I don't think, anyway. I mean, I was kind of two minds about it. Like there's the optimist side and there's the pessimist side. Like the pessimist side is like, whoa, old Detroit, they're like the business is gonna fail like 2 months after you join in, man. It's a bad deal. Don't do it. Don't do it. But then there's the optimist side. Oh boy, if I get in and work real hard, like there's gonna be so much room for advancement, and maybe I can find a place and do everything better than everyone else, and or just I don't know, real idiot stuff like that. But I don't know. I still like to think there's an opportunity there, but I just don't feel secure signing up to a company with that much drama right in my face 5 minutes after I walk in. Interview number 2 was at a camping dealership, an RV dealership, a small independent one, as far as I can tell. Camping happens in the summertime, and right now, as you may be able to guess by my jacket that I'm wearing inside the house, it is winter time. The low point of the season. The position was parts guy, mixed in with a little bit of greet the people at the door. I mean, given the smaller size of the place, I can kind of. I mean, obviously they want you to do more than one thing. But yeah, we need you to be the parts guy, mixed with door entry at Walmart. I don't know. The pay was a little low but decent. As far as room for advancement or whatever the word is, um, I suppose it's possible, but highly unlikely. I don't know. I don't know. Just if the work is as slow as they were saying, I mean, again, I'm of two minds. There's the optimist and there's the pessimist. The optimist says, "Oh, look at them. They got the slick salesman. They got the slick clothes. They have decent inventory parked around the building. Lots of RVs in need of sell, possibly repair. Um, so I mean, they're definitely doing business, and they don't appear to be struggling in any way. I got interviewed by what appeared to be the head salesman and the head mechanic, the service manager, I guess you'd say, and it went pretty good. So yeah, a decent business that doesn't appear to be struggling versus um, basically working the fryer at McDonald's. Like sure I could get in, but would I go anywhere? And I mean that's the hardest thing about looking for a job for me is there's long term and there's short term. And I've got a little bit of money in the bank account. I don't have to have a job by tomorrow, but I don't know. I've been without a job once before, and that was definitely much more of a survival kind of game, like get a job now if you felt like eating tomorrow kind of thing. And that's not the situation this time, which is why I'm glad I squirreled away enough money in my savings account so I don't have to rely on my boss completely, my former boss. Rip in peace. Um, hmm. 'Cause I mean, there are jobs available, but I could go down and get the nastiest, most horrible job you ever saw at like the plastics manufacturing place up the road, and it would literally be 8 to 10 hours of standing in one spot, grabbing a plastic mold, checking it, and throwing it in a bin, and doing that for hours on end. I'm not trying to knock the job. I'm not. I'm just saying I've had jobs like that before, and it's not quite as bad as being in jail, but there are certain parallels probably. So, yeah. If I get desperate, I'll do whatever. But being desperate is not a good life strategy. I figured that much out. It's about the only thing. Okay, so interview one was the scary auto parts remanufacturing facility that was built in the 50s. Interview number two was the local RV dealership, which seems promising, but perhaps limiting. And then there was the final interview from yesterday, in which I thought it was just a low-level sucker interview for delivering car parts to people in the area. Part-time, if we have parts to actually deliver, that kind of thing. But they flipped the script on me. In that, I submitted my resume online, and apparently the district manager saw the resume and gave a phone call to the store manager and said, "Hey, look at this. There's a guy that used to work at a dealership, and he doesn't work at the dealership anymore. Maybe we can snatch him up after a while. We're trying to open up a new location at a store 30 miles away. We haven't built the store yet, but we're gonna, and we need people to actually run the store when it gets open." So I'm really trying not to get too excited before anything actually happens, especially because I don't have any direct experience at this store. I do have experience figuring out the car parts that people need and getting them and preparing them and selling them to them. But I don't have experience like in this context. Like this store sells different things than I'm used to. This store has a different catalog system where I need to look up the thing for the person. And brief tangent, catalog. There are certain very definite similarities between, say, the catalog system at a library and the catalog system at an auto parts store. Every once in a while I mention it to people, but they don't really seem to care about the joke. But I find it quietly humorous, which is why in certain places online I like to refer to myself as a parts librarian, which is a little bit grandiose, but suits me okay. Okay. So, the local auto parts store with a potential fast track to some kind of management low level management position. I've seen guys working for this chain before. There was one came into a place I used to work, and he was asking about getting a job there himself. And given a choice, he wound up saying, I'd prefer to stay out of the dealership environment. I'd rather go aftermarket." Maybe that doesn't make sense to the average person, to the average viewer who hasn't been on my side of the counter. Let's see. So you have a place like Advance Auto Parts or an O'Reilly's, like a little independent parts store. And then you've got the dealership environment, which is a lot more official, a lot more military in its bearing, a lot more discipline. Yes, ma'am. No, sir. Let's get her done. Mixed with a strange level of, "Oh, and welcome to Disneyland. Yay, let's change your oil in your car." I'm just all weepy because I don't work there anymore is all. I'm sure the nostalgia will fade or possibly grow 10 times as strong. Anyway. So this last interview I had went from a minimum wage interview into, hey, maybe in 6 months you can be an assistant manager at our new store kind of thing. which makes me excited, gives me a certain amount of fear, in that in the dealership environment, things are relatively stable, and you can focus on the thing. I got to get this spark plug for that guy. I got to get that flavor of oil for that car. Meanwhile, in the aftermarket side, you got to be like, okay, did I sell enough parts to pay for the light bill this morning? Did I, like that kind of thing? Like, you got to make sure you're actually doing enough business to keep the doors open. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, what? Free market, enterprise, capitalism, whatever fancy economic buzzwords you want to say. I mean, I get it. I don't know. I've had certain Wild West sales experience in the past, and maybe a little bit of a traumatic experience, but that's a story for another day. But I guess what I have right now is a choice. As it stands, I have an appointment on the coming Tuesday to meet with the district manager guy that originally spotted my resume in the first place. They will give me a second interview. Hopefully, I will impress them, kick butt, whatever. That would be nice. And then shortly after that, I guess I'll have a choice, which seems to be get some on-the-ground experience at this chain with the intent of moving on and using it elsewhere. I'm sure actually selling parts to people would be part of the draw, but the second part of the draw would be to train other people to do the same thing, which is something I believe I am capable of doing. Risk versus reward. I don't know. If there's a moral to the story, one of them might be fortune favors the bold, which is one of them old-timey sayings that haunts me in the dark of night sometimes. But there's truth to it, though. The question is chasing down this job, is it bold or is it reckless? That's something I have the trouble telling the difference between. Well, I guess short term, the one thing I should do should be to contact my family, friends, and or loved ones and run most of what I've said to you past them to see if they have any input. Just got to get them to pick up the phone, though. Sad face. No, they're busy. They're busy. Yeah. I think I've said my piece this morning. I greatly appreciate whatever time you've spent listening to me ramble. I will do my best to do a little sound processing this time around, and I will upload this into the void. And who knows, maybe somebody will see it. Take it easy.